welcome to this class. We're going to paint these flowers, and I did a test piece on the side, which is actually pretty large. This is 14 by 20, I believe. This is one of the larger pads or blocks by Hanamulle. This is the collection watercolor paper, and to be honest, I took some time to think about it, like how I want to approach these flowers, because there's just so many ways, and I've painted them in the past, and I have two versions. One is even more loose than this, so it's way looser, and then there's other version which is detailed, so I would paint every single petal separately. And for the background, I use sap green, imidazzle yellow, hooker's green, phthalo blue even. So it's totally up to you. You just want to have basically like yellow, green, and blue to create different shades of green. So this is the size I'm using. This is 9 by 12. It's a very small piece. I do suggest to wet it anyway for a long time. That's because you want to wet both sides of the paper so everything stays wet longer. So I have this brush. This is the flat 40 Pessanel. If you do have this brush, just please keep in mind that if you go too low like this, you will scratch the paper with the ferrule part, with the metal part. So now I finally placed my watercolor paper directly on the table. It's sticking because it's wet from the bottom, but I'm telling you, it takes a long time to wet a 300-pound watercolor paper till it feels like nice and moist. And you want to have your colors pre-diluted with water, by the way. So I have quin red, cobalt blue, ultramarine, bright violet, quinacridone magenta, lilac, quin red, yellow, so imidazzle yellow, phthalo blue, sap green, hooker's green. Those are the colors. I'm going to start with this lilac. So this is the opaque color, and I can grab a little bit of that bright violet too, but I want to do this gentle. What I'm grabbing is more like a half and half, or between, yeah, it's like a half and half, like ratio between water and paint. I'm just finding the areas wherever I can see that shade, and I'm starting to get a little more and more of that bright violet as well. So this is wet on wet, so I know there's like, for every color you can find like that space, like where you wanna use it, right? This is when I just grabbed some of the cobalt blue, and it looks really pretty actually, the cobalt blue and lilac. So like a lot of time I just wouldn't use this lilac because it's so opaque. But if I'm just adding it to my first layer, just like this, and this was really pretty actually. So cobalt blue and lilac. But if I'm just doing this with that first layer very gently, then I'm okay with it, because that opacity, like, you won't feel it as much. And the thing is that colors will dry. It will look transparent anyway. Clean the brush. And the greens, like, you don't have to add them everywhere. This is imidazzle yellow. And this is sap green. I want to find some areas where I want to add it. I just grab some of the hooker's green too. You don't need too much, because we're gonna add this background, the green background, later. We're gonna frame this the whole thing, like the lilacs. We're gonna frame it with the color, with the background. This is also phthalo blue. So it's just a little bit, just to have something, and I like to do that so I know like the composition from the start. It's just easier for me to visualize the things. I think overall this is a little darker than my first version. It's more vibrant. There you go. Okay, I'm gonna clean this brush and call it done for now, because I cannot do anything until this is dry, and this will take a few hours to dry. I feel like it's gonna be like a few hours to dry. But that's because I wetted both sides, but that gave me a lot of time to add colors towards the wet surface of this paper. Masking fluid, I'm using it because I like it, and it actually, it's pretty good, and I don't have any issues with it. And another thing is that it's blue, and I can. So now, once the masking is dry, like once you know when it has dried, and this has dried pretty fast because it's really hot outside today, and even it's nighttime. So I waited maybe like 5 minutes, and it's all dry. Plus I applied very small amounts. This is long quill size 2 Songbird. And I'm going to start wetting the flower. So this is my first part, so right here from the top, and you don't have to add water everywhere. Just keep in mind that you can have some paper dry areas in between. It's just a quick wetting. Just try to kind of frame it already, but it doesn't really matter that much because the thing is that we're going to use the background to frame them and bring them more into the as the main focal point. So a little bit here, just adding some water, and I'll probably re-wet this again once I get to the lower parts or here. Golden tube brush. So I'm not gonna use the lilac this time. This is the lilac color because it's too opaque, and I'm gonna mix these colors. So I want to mix the colors, basically what I'm trying to say. On the paper, yes, but I want to do this more than before. So this is my Quin Magenta, this is my bright violet, and there's my ultramarine. So as you see, like, it's a quick grab of colors, but I don't want the lilac because I know that at this point I could experience some muddiness of colors. Just a little color here. I'm just gonna find some areas where I want to apply this color, and every time I grab color, it's like I will have like more of the Quin Magenta, and sometimes I'll have less of that. Sometimes I'll have more of, like, let's say ultramarine and bright violet. I'm gonna come here. This is more like the bright violet now. So I don't need to add this everywhere, and now I can see where I left some areas paper dry. I'm grabbing a smaller brush. This is round 2 because I want a little color here. Like, I am going to do this kind of detail later. There will be a little bit of wet on dry, but I feel like maybe I could add already a little bit of a color in between, especially where I can see that there's some masking fluid. So maybe I can add it a little bit closer to that masking, just to accent some of the petals. A little bit of phthalo blue. I'm going to make it a little darker. But as you're getting closer, you're thinking about those petals, the flowers, and this is how you're going to bring it into the more into the main focus of the painting. This is going to become that main focus of your painting, the flowers. So you're bringing them more into the foreground. A little more of the imidazolone yellow. I just grabbed also some of that Hooker's green I have on my palette, and I just continue shaping these flowers by adding colors towards the background. And so this part, like, all background is wet, but now I'm getting really close towards the flowers and I'm pronouncing them more this way. So I want to do this before the background is dry. So I want to do this wet and wet. So more colors, and I'm changing the ratio between the colors too. Like, now what I want to do is I clean the brush. I want to grab now, this is drier paint, but this is my bright rose, and then this is the magenta, so Quin Magenta, and this is when I need to actually add more colors. I don't have these lilacs like in the reference image, but I want to have them here. And I have a little too much on my brush, too much water. I'm going to switch to a different brush to have a little more control. And I'm just going to go through these sections to soften these, to control the paint from spreading so much. And I think I'm going to grab a little more, but this time I grabbed some of the ultramarine as well. Some more of that. The background is pretty wet, so that's another reason why the paint is spreading so much. Very similar to how I painted them earlier. Very similar. And let's see, maybe I want to go in a little closer here with the greens. So just my greens. I want to walk away from this, let it dry, and then I'm going to remove the masking fluid. Hi everyone, so I waited for it to dry and I already actually started removing masking and I don't have much left. But having that masking fluid has definitely given me more contrast once the masking fluid has been removed. So it's a good thing because I went much darker with this, with these lilacs compared to my first test piece. So please let me know if you have any questions, and I will share pictures of both of these paintings so you can compare like how you want to go about it, because this one is a little darker and then my first version is a little lighter.